What's up, everyone? So, I was watching First Take on ESPN, and they had this incredible segment about the San Francisco 49ers that I just had to break down for you because there's so much happening right now with this team. Stephen A. Smith and the crew were going absolutely in-depth on everything from Brock Purdy's injury status to potential trade deadline moves, and honestly, it was one of those episodes where you could feel the tension and urgency around what the Niners need to do to save their season. The show started off with this huge discussion about Brock Purdy and his injury situation heading into Week 7 against the Atlanta Falcons. They brought on Chase Sr., who covers the 49ers extensively, and the conversation immediately went to whether Purdy should even be playing right now or if the Niners need to give him extended rest to let that toe fully heal. Chase was talking about how he was actually at practice and saw Purdy taking third-team reps behind Adrian Martinez, while Mac Jones was taking the first-team reps, which tells you everything you need to know about where Purdy is physically right now. Kyle Shanahan apparently said during his weekly show that Mac Jones will most likely be the starting quarterback Sunday night against Atlanta. And when Chase heard that, he was basically saying, "Look, this is exactly what we talked about weeks ago." They referenced back to a conversation before the Jacksonville game where they discussed how the Niners should manage Purdy's injury. Chase had made this observation when he was at practice before that Jags game that really stuck with everyone. He said Purdy couldn't really plant his foot and drive from his lower half, and because of that, he was sailing a lot of throws and leaving balls high. Then what happened? Purdy played against Jacksonville and did exactly what Chase saw in practice, threw a lot of high balls that led to a couple interceptions, and the Niners turned it over 4 times total in that game, which you just cannot win doing. The clear takeaway from watching that game was that Purdy did not look right physically. Chase was emphatic about this, saying Purdy was moving around very gingerly in that game, and you could tell he was hesitant to run the football and create plays outside of structure. He basically just hung out inside the pocket because he didn't have confidence in that toe. The problem with turf toe is that it has such a high risk of re-aggravation. And what happened against Jacksonville? Purdy came back too early, re-aggravated the injury, and he's been on the shelf ever since. Chase said he saw some videos this week of Purdy throwing, and he definitely looked better where his base was more firm, and he thinks it's smart to let Mac Jones play against Atlanta this week. If the Niners can just pass protect, which the offensive line has been a massive problem, Mac has shown he can really be an elite thrower from inside the pocket. The thing the Niners miss desperately is Brock Purdy's ability to create outside of structure, to run the ball, to be athletic back there, because so often he's bailed out that struggling offensive line. When Chase watched Purdy at practice, there's this loopiness to the ball right now. Purdy's not zipping it out there like he normally does. His ball just doesn't have that normal zip on his passes. There's a loop to it, and it's just not what you're accustomed to seeing from Purdy when he's healthy. Whoever plays quarterback this week, and it looks like it's going to be Mac Jones, better get ready because this is going to be a serious challenge. Then they got into the matchup itself, and Chase had been looking at the numbers. Atlanta plays the highest percentage of cover 1 in the entire NFL. They're playing man-to-man coverage most of the time, and they also bring pressure at the highest rate in the league. They blitz at the highest rate in the NFL, and they really bring it on third downs specifically. If the Niners receivers can't win these one-on-one man-to-man matchups, it could be a really rough night for Mac Jones. Chase brought up that it was rough for Mac last week because Tampa Bay was all over him. The Buccaneers had 22 total pressures on Mac with 11 hurries. They sacked him 6 times, and Tampa had a pressure rate over 40%. This could be an even more frenetic game just because of all the weapons Atlanta has on offense. Michael Penix can really spin the football. Bijan Robinson might be the best offensive skill player in the entire NFL right now. Drake London has great size and is a matchup problem. Kyle Pitts is finally starting to find his groove. The Falcons can really move the ball, and the Niners are so banged up on defense without Nick Bosa and without Fred Warner. Stephen A. jumped in and was really emphasizing how aggressive this Falcons defense has become. Last year, they could not get after the quarterback at all. They gave up the highest completion percentage in the NFL, gave up the most touchdowns in the league, were dead last in sacks, and dead last in sack percentage. So, in the first round this year, they drafted some elite pass rushers and signed Leonard Floyd. When Chase looked at their sack production numbers, it's so much better than last year. What's really interesting is their sack production is coming from everywhere. Defensive ends, defensive tackle, linebackers, corners, safeties all contributing. They talked about how, while Niners fans love their draft class, the Falcons had an absolutely stellar draft themselves. They got elite safeties in free agency and drafted electric athletes on the defensive front. The Falcons had a really good offseason, and they're building what looks like a bully of a team if Michael Penix can play consistently at quarterback. Then the conversation shifted to some good news for the Niners, which is that George Kittle is coming back. Kittle practiced, and they've officially designated him to return from injured reserve. Kittle says he fully plans on playing Sunday night against the Falcons. Shanahan ultimately has the final call, but Kittle also revealed something pretty shocking, which is that he has a fully torn hamstring. When Chase heard that, he was stunned. Apparently, there are different grades of a torn hamstring, and this one was a grade 3. For Kittle to come back this soon is a credit to him, a credit to how he takes care of his body, and obviously, he's a freak athlete. This is a huge boost for the Niners' offense. The offensive line has been horrible, especially along the interior, but Chase thinks the presence of Kittle as both a blocker and a pass catcher is going to help the run game significantly. Kittle's presence provides leadership, and with the Niners losing Fred Warner and Nick Bosa being out, Kittle's leadership is going to be absolutely huge. His ability in the red zone is critical because the Niners have been the 28th ranked red zone offense in the NFL. Robert Saleh announced that Malik Mustafa and Devondre Campbell will be starting at the safety spots against the Falcons, which led to discussion about potential trades. There's been speculation at the trade deadline about Jair Brown potentially being moved. Bill Barnwell from ESPN believes the Niners may trade Brown to Buffalo. Chase could definitely see a Brown trade happening because Mustafa is clearly the guy going forward, and Brown was more of a gap filler until the younger guys were healthy. Then the conversation shifted to the big topic everyone wants to talk about, which is defensive ends and pass rushers. The 49ers obviously cannot get to the quarterback right now. A bunch of names were floated by ESPN insiders, including Trey Hendrickson, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, and several others. Trey Hendrickson is obviously the big-ticket item, but they don't even know if the Bengals are willing to move him. Chase said Hendrickson is his favorite option by far. Hendrickson didn't play on Thursday Night Football because he injured his back. If the Bengals continue to lose games and didn't sign Hendrickson to a contract extension, don't you want to get value back for a player you might otherwise lose in free agency for nothing? Chase thinks it's smart business for Cincinnati to trade him. As far as scheme fit goes, Hendrickson would be awesome for San Francisco. This is a guy who plays hard, has high character, is a leader in the locker room, and doesn't take a snap off. If the Niners can't pull off a trade for Hendrickson, Chase wants to go with a young piece who can be with this team for the foreseeable future. He thinks Jermaine Johnson of the Jets or Will McDonald IV of the Jets would make a lot of sense. They've both shown they can thrive under Robert Saleh. Something Chase has talked about is that even if you trade for a pass rusher, when Nick Bosa comes back next year, you can still have everyone on the field at the same time because these guys can play both defensive tackle and defensive end interchangeably. There's nothing not to like about Hendrickson because he's got great talent, he's in his prime, and his motor runs really high. Chase thinks Hendrickson's game ages well too, because he wins with power moves and technique, which age better than pure athleticism. The only question would be, can you fit that much cap space with both Hendrickson and Bosa? Looking at other names, Jermaine Johnson is really intriguing. If somehow the Niners could make a deal with the Jets where they got both Johnson and McDonald, that's what Chase would try to do, because he thinks those two guys together could really give you what Bosa gave you as a solo player. Then they got into the receiver situation, which is just a mess right now. Ricky Pearsall can't seem to get on the field consistently. Jacob Cowing basically doesn't exist anymore in the offense. Jauan Jennings expressed frustration last week, and he's obviously not healthy. There are a lot of questions about this receiving core. Chase said the dead cap charge with Brandon Ayuk makes him really hard to deal with right now. Chase wouldn't be surprised if they traded away Jauan Jennings because Kendrick Bourne and Deebo Samuel are kind of that same physical possession receiver type. What's unfortunate is that Purdy'S had injury concerns coming into this year, got off to an awesome start, then injured his shoulder, and now he's going to miss yet another game. Chase wouldn't be surprised if Jennings got moved before the trade deadline. Jennings' trade value is impacted because he's dealing with shoulder, rib, and ankle injuries. But if another team like the New York Giants, who's trying to support Daniel Jones, and they're without Malik Neighbors, Jennings could fit that mold. Pittsburgh was looking for another receiver too. If you trade Jennings away, you get Ayuk back eventually, you have Purdy'S, Deebo, Bourne, and Chris Conley, and that receiver room would be good enough. The last thing they discussed was Nick Martin, the rookie linebacker. Chase is excited to see Martin and D. Winters get opportunities. It's a bad break for Fred Warner, but it's a great break for the young guys. A lot of people think Martin being inactive means he's a bust, but Chase thinks Niners fans are going to absolutely love him once they see him play. As far as D. Winters stepping in for Warner, he's not the athlete Warner is because nobody is, but Winters has a really high football IQ and the ability to read and diagnose play. He's a good run defender who can shoot gaps. As far as Nick Martin goes, nobody can say definitively that he's a bust. The Niners didn't have him active because they couldn't quite trust him yet based on preseason inconsistency. But Martin plays so fast and so physical, like a bat out of hell. Chase is telling everyone Martin will over-pursue plays and overrun things because he can't harness his aggression properly yet. But some of the wow plays he makes will get people excited. Martin plays with a nasty streak and can pick up tackles for loss. Chase cannot wait to see number 45 out there. They wrapped up talking about the Falcons game and whether the Niners can win. Chase thinks this is going to be really tough. The Falcons are rolling and playing well. It's all about Michael Penix taking care of the football. If Penix protects the ball, the Falcons probably win. But if Penix turns it over and the Niners are +2 in turnovers, the 49ers win a close one. The key is the 49ers' ability to tackle in open spaces, specifically stopping Bijan Robinson, who's doing what Christian McCaffrey did in 2023. If you stop Robinson, the Niners have a great chance, but if he goes off, it's going to be really difficult to win. So that was the full First Take segment, and it covered everything from Purdy'S injury to Kittle's return, to potential trades at the deadline, to the massive challenge Atlanta presents Sunday night.